Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Stripped by Sia, your podcast for strippers, sex workers, and all the fancy naked people in between. I'm your host, Sia, aka Kimchi on stage. You can probably catch me this week, actually, Friday, December 6th at the legendary Penthouse nightclub. I'll be there, not stripping for once, but I'll be there with my dance team. We are going to be doing a lovely showcase. Yours truly will be performing. And of course, I'm going to be hanging out with all my friends, all my stripper friends. Because as you might know, if you've been listening to the show for a while, that's my home club. That's where I get started with stripping many, many years ago. You can catch me there. Come ask me about the show. Come hang out. But most importantly, bring money so you can tip your strippers. That's most important there. Don't tip me, but tip the other girls that are actually working that night. As you might know, yes, I'm a stripper. I've been a stripper since 2018. I am also a content creator. I'm a cam model on Streamate. I am on some sites, soon to be more after speaking with this episode as well, in terms of paid subscription websites. And I started in the industry many, many years ago as a sugar baby over a decade ago. And I have learned so much since then. If it is your first time joining in with us today, the show is all about destigmatizing sex work. And I do that by bringing different guests on every single week to talk about the industry wherever their corner in the industry is. So I interview not just on-screen talent, but I also interview people from nonprofit organizations, those who are allies, people behind the scenes. I have even interviewed clients before, gotten their perspective. And sometimes I interview the founders of certain companies that you might be familiar with, including today. But stay tuned. We're almost there at that point. But I just want to say a quick hello to our lovely Patreon subscribers. Thank you so much for supporting since season 4. It is now season 7. I appreciate all of your support over the years. All of that money goes into hosting the website because that has a cost. It goes towards myself attending adult industry events, most likely in North America. We will see if I will be attending some in the new year, but that's exactly where your money is going if you're curious. If you want to join the community up there, that's totally cool. I would love to see you there. You can get access to all of the episodes early, at least a week or two in advance before anyone else does. You get full video access to all of the episodes as well, including so many great bonus episodes that I've been able to record with you, some of my guest lectures, my speech that I did at the Wish Gala a couple weeks ago, and lots of more goodies over there as well. So be sure to check it out. There are tiers for as low as $4 a month, and it's patreon.com/strippedbysia. And if you're on the top tier, thank you so much, by the way. You do get a little fan recognition shout out on the show. So I'm just going to quickly kind of go through those right now. We've got Snoo from Germany. We've got Reina from Sweden, Geyser, unknown location, Eric Arajo. I still don't know where you're from either. We've got creator Bia York. We've got fellow worker McKenna King based in Edmonton. We've got Dan from Red Door Products based in Seattle, Washington. And we've got Dale Flood from Vancouver, where I am from. So thanks again, guys. Come join us. There's lots to discuss on the platform on Patreon, and I'd love to see you there. Once again, it's patreon.com/strippedbysia. So it's kind of hinting today in terms of like what we'll be talking about. I said, it's rare to, have founders on the show, especially because like I think it's really important, especially given the angle that I bring people onto the show for in terms of destigmatization, to bring founders on, but especially seek out founders who have had a lived experience in the work. So I'm very happy and very pleased to bring on the founder of Just for Fans. You might have heard of that platform, Dominic Ford, on the show today. Now, Dominic has been in the industry for 17 years, I believe, which is amazing. He's won so many wonderful achievements and milestones over the years, including a Grabby Lifetime Achievement Award, plural, XPES, ex-biz Businessman of the Year award, and he's also the founder of Porn Guardian. And I'm sure there are much more projects underneath his belt today, but that's just a tidbit of what I've found about you online, Dominic. But feel free to introduce to the audience yourself in your own words and terms.
Sia, thank you so much for having me on today. It's really terrific to see you and be part of this. So thank you for that. I started 17 years ago. I started with a porn studio, which you didn't mention. So I actually my entree into the industry was doing photography for escorts and porn stars, and then I parlayed that into creating a porn studio that I ran for 12 years before starting Just for Fans. And then in the middle of that, in the middle of the porn studio, I started Porn Guardian. So those are kind of like my three things in adult. But yeah, it's been a million years, I feel like, in the industry.
Yeah. I mean, 17 years, it's like, again, a lifetime in the adult industry. It can be for so many people. But I mean, you've had some humble beginnings. I know I did hear and read about, yes, you first founding a studio and like, kind of like having a hand in a shot and like body, but
Quite literally,
not your face, but
quite literally, quite the most famous part of my body was this for a very long time.
your hand model.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. And that kind of just started because it was cheaper to hire one model than two, and we had no money. And so it was like, well, how do we do solos? We would do solos, and then we would do duos, and we couldn't really afford more than that. But I was like, how do we make the solos more interesting? And so I'm like, well, you know, I'll use a hand, and eventually, as I got into shape, I got more and more on screen, and then all of me was on screen. So I ended up being a model uh, slowly
Exactly.
from the hand on.
That's amazing and so funny as well. I mean, if we can just roll it back just a little bit too, like, did you have any other prior experience before the adult industry? Of that was kind of like, I'm gonna just jump both feet in. I'm sure there's a story behind there, and I'm sure our audience is willing to listen.
Well, so the real beginnings. My dad is a photographer, and I grew up with photography, and I felt like I was pretty good at it. And I remember, I'm gonna age myself, not that my baldness hasn't done that already. But like back in the AOL chat room days, um,
Wow.
there'd be
Yes.
there'd be chat rooms, and there'd be guys who were like, if you want me to take photos for you to post on your profile, let me know. But they were all kind of guys that you might be a little afraid to go into a room alone with. And I was 23, 25. I was young, decently looking. And I was like, I could do this, and I wouldn't be a scary person for people to be in the room with. And so I started doing erotic photography in New York City, the back of the weekly magazines that had the escorts in it, and whatnot. Like a lot of those photos were mine back in the day. And so that's how it
Wow.
all started. Yeah, and one of my clients had said to me, this was in 99, I think. They're like, have you thought about doing video? Now, I'm a computer scientist, I'm a programmer, um, but video was something I'd never done before. I was afraid of it. I wish I hadn't been afraid of it, because back then I was like, oh no, this is too complicated for me to handle. But some of the OG porn sites were starting up in 97, 98, 99. Like that was kind of like when money was being printed by
Yes.
the industry. And I wish I had gotten in there. It took me much longer to finally bite the bullet and do it. But that was the seed.
Wow. Wow. That was so long ago. And like even back to like the back page, like when that was still a thing.
Oh yeah,
AOL. Wow. That was a long time ago too. I mean, I
I
was
know.
very young when that came out, but I was more of like an MSN messenger girly, but
Yeah.
same shit, different pile, different pile for sure. Okay, so like photography, that was one thing. And then yeah, moving into programming too. I mean, I know that you built Just for Fans yourself. We'll get to that point. We'll get to that point. I'm just gonna try to go chronologically as much as we
Yeah,
can.
sure.
And then you kind of started the studio as well. Can you tell us a little bit about studio work and why starting your own studio, not working for one?
Sure. Well, so I had been doing all these photos, and then one of my clients had said, "Why don't you think about video?" And eventually, I was in a relationship uh, with my only long term boyfriend. His name was Emerson, and he's a graphic designer. I'm a programmer, and I'm a photographer. And I had a home office, and he would go into the office at night and be watching porn sites. And I would go in and look at the porn sites, and I would comment on like how bad the photography was and how bad the user interface was, and he would comment on how bad the graphic design was, etc. And we kept saying, and I kept saying, like, we, between the two of us, we have the skills to do this better,
Yes.
or at least
Hmm.
try to. Um, and just like 6 months of that kind of went by, and the recession started. This was 2008,
Hmm.
and I'm like, you know what? Wait, money's not really coming in right now, like in my other worlds. Why not dedicate some resources to this and try it? Worst that happens, we fall on our face, and best that happens is it pays our rent. Um, and we didn't tell our friends about it, uh, because it wasn't real yet. It was, well, once it starts paying our rent, we'll tell our friends. Until then, it's like a little hobby.
Okay,
And
gotcha.
a year later, we told all of our friends.
Amazing. I mean,
I
was
know,
this
crazy,
something
right?
that you were, yeah, super crazy. Was this something that you were just kind of doing on the side, like moonlighting and then kind of doing a full-time gig at the same time as well? Or, yes, you're nodding.
Yeah, was doing a consulting company in e-commerce, in like mainstream e-commerce, and it just, the recession came and nobody was hiring consultants anymore, and they were just hunkering down, hoping that the recession was going to end. And so yeah, this was kind of like a sideline. And then when it started to pick up, then I quit. I quit everything else.
Wow, that's really brave. And sometimes like it's like so nice for those of us that did start in corporate because I'm one of those girlies as well. Like, I always had the safety net of having like full-time job and then kind of doing sex work on the side. Now I've kind of, taken a backseat with that full-time gig and then trying to make, sex work more of a focus now. But how was it, if you can take us back to that time, how is it? 'Cause, like, I can imagine those are really, really long days, but how are you able to balance it all? And, like, some people might think it's a gamble, it's a big risk, but take us back to that time if you can remember.
Uh, yeah, I mean, look, it was really difficult because I definitely had the day job, and then Emerson and I were building DominicFord.com sort of at night. I would, we would build it together. And it's funny, like, now models understand what that hustle is, because now models have to do all these things themselves. Like back in the day, a porn model would show up on set, work for X number of hours, and get a paycheck, and that was it. They didn't have to edit and schedule and social media and all this kind of stuff that we were all doing. So it's like, I could go on and on about how difficult it was, but it's going to be no surprise to like the modern day uh, porn performer, because they're doing all of these multi-faceted things now, proving how talented our industry is in ways beyond what people just see on film.
Right. I mean, and also that during that time too, like, you were mentioning it was a little bit different back in the day, like, and
Oh,
versus
sure.
today. Yeah, it's like literally, well, I always see sex work as like a job, right? So you go in, you show up, you do your scenes, you go home, maybe come back for another day of shooting. But now it's really, really hands-on. We're involved. Your fans want to get access to you at all times of the day. It's a lot more participation in order for yourself to be successful.
Yeah, and we had a porn studios, at least back then, and I don't know now, but back then we would release one scene a week. And so, and we weren't so much, social media wasn't really a thing back then. And so like we were doing so much work to get one scene up a week. So the modern day the modern day content creator that is doing things every day. That's more work than we were doing back then, you know?
The hustle is real. I will tell you that. I mean, like going back to when you were, starting up the studio, and like your partner and yourself, Emerson, and you were behind the scenes doing, the back end work, programming. Emerson's doing the graphic design, doing a little bit of shooting. Did you have any idea what the hell you were even doing at that point, or was just kind of
Oh
like,
God, it was
we'll
awful.
figure it out as we
No,
go?
no, there's not like clear mentorship in this industry, which is
Yes.
something I've tried to change as I get older, is to try to, like, if people come to me for guidance or advice, like I do my best to be there for people, because we had, there's not a book to read like how to start a porn studio. And I mean, I remember oh God, this is like way back in the beginning, and this is awful. We hired a guy. We just wanted, we got the lighting, we got the cameras, and we just wanted to test. And so we hired a guy off of Craigslist, back when Craigslist existed, for the like M for M in the back.
Yes.
And it was just for him to jerk off on the couch. And he was and he was really quiet, and we didn't know what we were doing. Like, we weren't directors yet. Like, I was afraid to tell him what to do. And so like we're filming and like he's silent, which reads as boring on camera.
On
And that
camera, yeah.
I'm too afraid to be like, grunt and make noise. And so it's awful. And then he can't come while we're watching him. And so we set up the cameras. Emerson and I hid in the kitchen and just waited for him to come,
Oh my
assuming
goodness.
it was going to happen. So literally, we're huddled in the corner of the kitchen, and we're like, but he's so quiet that we don't know when. Like, eventually, like a good half an hour goes by, and we hear, guys. We're like, yeah. He's like, I came like 20 minutes ago.
Oh my gosh.
You didn't make any noise. We have no idea.
That's
So
hilarious.
this was our first test, and it was like, we need to learn how to direct. We need to learn that it's okay to tell models what what things read like on film, and be a director, and not be so afraid of the world. But yeah, that was our first experience.
That's hilarious. I can just
I
imagine the
forgot about
awkwardness.
that. It was so
It's a good
awkward.
memory.
And of course we didn't, I mean, all of that early footage we didn't use, obviously. There was nothing usable in that early footage. And we did another one. So I go to Fire Island. I don't know if you're aware of Fire Island in the summers. It's a place off of New York. And we hired this really hot guy. There's a wooded area, and we hired him. And he was way beyond our budget. Like, he was coming from a major studio. We couldn't afford him, but he was super hot. We're like, we're gonna just buck it up, and like, this scene will make so much money that it'll be fine. So we film in the wooded area, which is called the Meat Rack. And what I didn't realize, because it was only my first year, I think, on my second year on the island, was that time of summer was really bug infested
Oh no.
in the woods. And so the footage of this guy, there's not 4 seconds where he's not like, but of course we had to pay him because we brought him in. Again,
Oh my
footage we
God.
never used. So this was our first year of like not knowing what the hell we were doing.
Totally. And you know what? Like, your story actually can relate to so many of our experiences in the industry. A lot of it's like blindly navigating, and this is back in the day, like before like it was in the 2000s, right? So there wasn't any guidebook or anything like that. No resources, no podcasts, no blogs, no
Yeah.
YouTube. Yeah, it's a different time for sure. So like kind of like
how we how
blindly
we
navigating.
like how we survived and became successful it mystifies me.
And here you are.
And here
Um,
we are.
going back to your story, like talking about, okay, we're going to wait to tell our friends and our family what we're doing on the side, when we get successful. And that happened to be about a year after you started. What was the response like with your friends and family when you told them, hey, we started a porn studio? Like, go check it out.
So with the friends, it was funny because it's like when you come out as gay to your friends, they either already knew or they're upset that they weren't the first one that you told because they had heard it from Johnny, who you had told the day before. Um, and so when we came out to our friends as owning a porn studio, it was the same thing. It was like the second batch of people were pissed off that they weren't part of the first batch of people who knew, and the first batch of people were like, yeah, well, we went over your house that day, and there was like 7 video cameras like in the living room, so we knew something was up.
So it wasn't a surprise. It wasn't a complete surprise to them.
No, no. I mean, family was a whole different. I mean, that was a whole. My family did not talk to me for God 6 months, 7 months.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
that was bad. That was pretty bad, and it took a very years until that got better. But that was a challenge.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it is quite a challenge for many of us sex workers too. Either if you were able to come out to your family, if you have that privilege, if you feel safe and supported, and sometimes you are not met with that support. Are you able to kind of dive into that topic a little bit of as well, to talk about like how you were able to, or how you came to the decision, like, okay, we want to talk to our parents about this or for family.
Yeah,
How do you
so so
navigate
it
that
actually
conversation?
so it actually wasn't my decision.
Oh
I was
no.
I was using the same accountant as my dad to do my taxes,
Oh.
and Dominic Ford was paying me, so it was on the taxes like this new company, and my accountant asked my father what this company was. Now,
No.
why would they not ask me? Because it was my taxes and not my dad's. But alas, I get a phone call being like, "What is Dominic Ford, and what is your relationship with it?" And
Oh my
that started a
gosh.
series of very uncomfortable conversations. Yeah. So yeah,
Oh man.
totally was not my choice. I mean, would we
I'm
eventually have
sorry.
had to? Sure, but at the time we were not ready.
No, that's so scary when that happens too, because it just takes it taking the choice out is so scary because it's just you basically got doxxed in a way, with your company.
But
That's
I'll
scary.
tell you my funny story memory of that. And my mom actually passed away this March,
I'm
and so this
sorry.
is. But thank you. But this is actually a very funny story about her. Because my whole family is entrepreneurs. My sister, my mom, my dad, they all started their own businesses. So entrepreneurship is in our blood. Um, and so at some point, that part of their brain takes over to be like, well, you know what he's doing. He clearly thinks that there's something he can add to this industry, and so we trust that. But so the conversation went from we went to the website, and your mother refuses to visit your apartment or sit on that couch for the rest of her life. Um, and then we didn't talk for at least 6 months, and this is, remember, this is tax time, right? So probably it was like April. So Christmas time comes around, and my mom calls me because now her entrepreneurial brain has taken over. And she's like, "So I think on your site for Christmas, you should sell pin the tail on the donkey game, but it's not a tail or a donkey. Do you understand?" And I was like, it was so much better when we were not talking about this.
You're like, thanks, mom, but I think I'm okay. Like, not awkward at all, but thank you? Question mark.
Oh my God.
At
Yeah.
least you have that side, so that's like not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah, no. So I mean, they came around, and of course, once you start making money and and helping
Mhm.
support the family, like the calculus changes. So
For sure. I mean, like pivoting, I mean, in the same vein too, like, did any of your past coworkers ever reach out to be like, what are you doing now? And like, have you ever had to have that conversation with them? And like,
that's yeah. So like, I'm very careful with what I post um, on social media. That's under my legal name because I don't want friends of mine who know, but I have cousins and family and ex coworkers from the .com land all on that social media. And I mean, look, at this point, there's no going back. I'm not ashamed of what I do. I've done it really well, So
yes.
if they find out, they find out. I'm not gonna. I was gonna say I'm not gonna be president one day, but really anybody can be. It seems so. Maybe who knows? Maybe I could be.
Yeah, I mean that's like a interesting thing to kind of like tiptoe. Like for example, like I have my husband's Christmas party at his new company start like next Friday, and like it's almost like an interesting conversation. Like I obviously don't share that with strangers, but like sometimes when I'm just like, oh, content creation or like consultant, they're like, oh, tell me more, and it's like a weird pressure, but not really because I'm just like, you're a stranger. I
It's
don't want you to
so.
Google
Is
me
it
later.
weird? Is it weird for you, like when you meet people who are content creators, but like Instagram influencers, and they're not in the adult industry? Because when people say to me that they're content creators, I immediately assume that they mean adult content, and when they don't, I'm like, I don't understand. What do you sell?
Totally. It's super strange because I do have like a lot of influencer friends who don't do anything with adult content creation. But like in my mind, like content creation, like
Yeah,
that just means like I can naked and do all these things on
yeah,
camera.
exactly.
But then like I feel like, I don't know. And people can chime in here too. I'd love to hear your your thoughts on this. But like when you hear content creation or I'm a content creator, like do you think influencer or do you think in sex work and adults? I'm curious. I'll post that as a question for this episode.
That'd be eager to see the results of that.
Totally.
Hi, it's Carly David, founder of PS Group, marketing agency for sex workers by sex workers. We're here to give you the tools you need to stand out. From slick websites to next level marketing strategies, we want to turn your fans into loyal customers. Our fees are project based, no commissions, no percentages. We believe you should keep the rewards of your hard work. So if you're serious about taking your brand to the next level, visit us at sexworkmarketing.com. Say hello. We'd love to talk to you.
Well, going back to you, Dominic, talking about the studio, so studio work, how did that, you said Porn Guardian was next. I'd love to hear about Porn Guardian.
Well, okay, so what Porn Guardian or what I'll say was for the time being, it was an anti piracy
Piracy?
company
Right.
where studios at the time and then later models would hire Porn Guardian to find the illegal versions of their content online and get them removed
Mm. Right.
through the DMCA process.
DMCA.
We,
Right.
we we had more functionality, which has found its way into Just for Fans, which actually I'd love to talk about a little bit because
For
we are
sure.
the most anti-piracy fan platform, like baked in really amazing ways that I'd love to talk about. But for
Yeah.
now, so how did this start? So Dominic Ford was, I don't know, 2, 3 years old, and this guy messaged me, who's a subscriber on the site, and he's like, "I'm finding your content on this site and that site. Do you want me to get it removed through this process called the DMCA, which is a legal way to send a note to them and say take it down?" And so
Right.
I assumed that he was a lawyer because he knew fancy words. And so I'm like, sure, you can. Thanks, appreciate it. And that was like once every 2 months he'd come to me, and then
Mm-hmm.
once a month he would come to me, and then once every 2 weeks he would come to me, and then that was a
Wow.
weekly thing. And on one side I'm like, oh, we're getting popular, and the other side was like, and now this is hurting our sales.
Totally.
But the other thing in my head was like, this guy's now doing a ton of work for me and I'm not paying him. So
Yeah.
what can I do to make it easier for him? So I built him an interface where he could just put the URLs in, and the system I built would know what the sites where the things were posted on, and in the system it would know who to email, and it would create the form letter for us, and so he didn't have to do anything anymore other than just put in the links, right? And that was like, okay, I still don't have to pay him because now I've automated this for him, and so he kept asking for more features, and I would build them, and eventually he was like, this tool now is robust enough that it could be used for other companies. And so because of him, and his name was Peter Finney, he passed away 2 years ago. Yeah. Which is why I say was, because it's been a bit of a challenge to move forward. But he, because of him, because of his goodwill in helping me and his thought of like, this is now bigger than DominicFord.com, we started a company called Porn Guardian. And at the height of it, probably had 400 clients, mainly all the major studios. And we were the number one anti-piracy company for a very long time. And then unfortunately Peter got sick with cancer, and then I started Just for Fans. It didn't really have time. So it kind of shuttered. But I've taken the core technologies and put them into Just for Fans. We have some digital watermarking where if a video on Just for Fans is downloaded or streamed or screen captured and then shows up on a file sharing site, we can figure out who the person who was that downloaded it on Just for Fans.
So cool.
That's baked into the system, and that's from technology that we worked on in the Porn Guardian days.
Amazing. Yeah. Okay. I have so many questions. Let's focus on Porn Guardian for right now, and talk about piracy and why people should care about pirated content, because I feel like I haven't talked about this on the show very often. I think this would be a really, really great opportunity. But why, for those who are listening, and I didn't say this to you earlier, but lots of my listeners are sex workers, some are clients, some are people that are not in this industry. A lot of people are using this podcast to prepare themselves to enter the industry. So given that context, why should we care about our content being leaked, and why should we care about taking that stuff down?
There's two warring, I think, ideas with from the model's perspective on piracy. And one is, it's free advertising for me. I'm number one on this file sharing site. So I'm not making money on that, but more people are finding out about who I am. And then there's the opposite side of that, is that no one is subscribing to me because they're getting all of my stuff for free. And two things can be right at the same time. Yes, people will get to know you because your stuff is being pirated, but at some point that critical mass goes onto the wrong side of the scale and you're losing money. And so the people who are like, I don't take my stuff down because it's good. Yeah, like 3 or 4 things from a year ago, like that's fine. But the thing that you launched an hour ago should not be pirated. And so you need to, if you want some stuff up there for advertising purposes, fine. But not everything that you post the minute after it's posted.
Yeah, totally. And that's a really good perspective too, to get, both sides of the coin there too. Cause yes, we love free advertising. We love that. We want to be able to be seen and shown, like our content to be shown to as many people as possible. But you want those people to hopefully convert and become paying fans and clients at some point, right? So,
well, I mean, it's the same. It's a similar calculus to how much free stuff do I put on Twitter.
Right.
And how much not. It's a very similar mindset. Like, you put some stuff out there because you want to gain followers, but followers aren't paying your rent, subscribers are. Yes. And so how do you get more subscribers? And the answer is not putting everything out on there. Twitter.
Yeah, totally. Because I see a lot of body parts on Twitter. No,
I mean, some of the most successful people don't show any of their genitalia on Twitter, and you need to subscribe to see it. Does that mean they maybe have fewer followers on Twitter? Maybe,
Yeah.
but they have more subscribers where it matters.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so important. Quickly before we go into just for fans and have that whole conversation be a highlight, you mentioned the DMCA Act. For those who, and I know what that is, but for those who are listening, can you explain a little bit in more detail like what that is? Because this affects not only sex workers. This can also affect people that don't want their intimate images or their nudes being sent or put online as blackmail or for whatever reason. So I think it's like a key point for us to mention if we're talking about pirated content.
Yeah, sure. So DMCA stands for Digital Millennium Copyright Act. And
Mm-hmm.
this is a formalized legal way for you, the content owner, to tell the website publishing it, I own this content. You do not have permission to publish it. Take it down. And it's a formalized wording of a memo to them, and
Mm-hmm.
then they have to react to it. If they're based in America, they have to react to it. A
Right.
lot of sites, sadly, are not based in America, and they don't
Yes.
care. But
Mm-hmm.
to your point, so what is the application of this? The application of this is I have a pirated scene up on site, XYZ, or Warner Brothers Music has music in one of your videos and says you don't
Right.
have the right to use this video. I'm going to send you a DMCA notice to take the video down. Or your boyfriend posted something that you're not in and he's not taking it down, but you can send a DMCA note to the site that's publishing it saying, you don't own the copyrights to this and he doesn't own the copyrights to it, and take it down. So
Mm-hmm.
there's many ways that the DMCA is used.
Right. Yeah. And I love that example of the DMC Act. Like on Instagram, for example, I know a lot of our listeners use Instagram. Like, they had the whole thing for a long time where like music wasn't allowed or you'd get the notification your video gets taken down. Also talking about jurisdiction, talking about if you're in America, yes, this can happen. And you were talking about so this notice gets sent to that person for them to react to. One of two options: they're going to take it down or they're going to keep it up. Those are the two options, right?
Yeah, and this is the major problem with the DMCA is that there's not penalties and there's not defined timelines. So the act does not say, and the website has to respond within 24 hours. No, it
Right.
just says within a reasonable amount of time, which could be a day, it could be a week. It's a little loose, and if they
Mm-hmm.
don't react, honestly, there's not, other than suing them, there's not a whole lot that can be done. So there's
Yeah.
not a lot of teeth there, but
Mm-hmm.
generally, at least American companies have typically been good citizens in that way.
Yeah, definitely. And then thank you for that refresher on that too. If folks are interested in learning about an episode on that, I spoke with Erica, who also works at a nonprofit organization that helps people take this stuff down. I actually had a couple episodes back in season 3 and 4. So I'll be sure to link that because it's related as well. But go ahead and listen in there. But now the big chunk of the episode, we want to save the best for last, but we want to talk about Just for Fans and how you came to founding Just for Fans and why we need Just for Fans.
Well, boy, I think more and more, I'm biased, but I feel like we need it more and more, because we're not seeing other platforms stepping up and having the backs of our industry. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so so Just for Fans is, count right, 7 years old. We started in, oh my God, 2018, I think we
Wow.
started. So I think we're about 7 years old. Um, and it really, OnlyFans had come out. OnlyFans was about a year old,
Yes. Yep.
and it was, or maybe a year and a half old. And I really like the idea that it's giving models agency, and it's
Mm-hmm.
putting the financial equation, it's tipping towards the models, and it's allowing models to have a residual passive income that
Mm-hmm.
studio work, which I was in, doesn't that doesn't exist in studio work. And it had always been a dilemma for me to be like, how can I help that happen? But in the model studio, it really can't. And when OnlyFans came out, I was like, this is a great way for this to happen. And I just didn't like their site, and they weren't from the industry. And I don't think they understood the industry, and they certainly didn't understand the full side of the industry, which for me means the gay side of the industry. Like, if anything, they were targeting the straight side, but the gay side is different. And we have different needs, and so I'm like, I really wanted to build a site that was for the straight side, that was for the gay side, but it was also understanding of the industry, meaning who was afraid when they came out. And I was in these conferences, bloggers and agents, studios, of course, and photographers. Like, everyone who makes money from the industry didn't have a way to make money in the industry, in this new idea of the industry. So I wanted to make a platform where agents and managers and editors and photographers all had a place, and nobody, and affiliates, and nobody would fear it.
Right. Yeah. Kind of like an all-in-one place, one-stop shop for that, which I think is important. You've mentioned a lot of great nuggets here that I kind of want to kind of pick your brain on a little bit more, Tom. So talking about, OnlyFans not being a buy for sex workers, and we've heard a lot of buzz about OnlyFans, like, since its inception, and now it's kind of like a fun word to throw around when we're talking about paid subscription sites, and recognizable for those who are not even in the industry. But let's sit in that for a moment, in terms of talking about the importance of knowing and having that having the lived experience when it comes to sex work, or at least having that understanding and that perspective when you are starting a company like this. I'm seeing, and I'm hoping this is going to be a good trend in the right direction of employing more and more sex workers behind these big companies. I'm throwing a lot at you right there, but feel free to start wherever you feel comfortable.
Well, I mean, this is one of our big calling cards, is that Just for Fans is 100% staffed by sex workers. And we are the only company in this space that can say that. I mean, not only did I start it, and I was on camera for forever, how big is we just hired more people. So how big is our staff now?
Congratulations, by the way.
I had a Zoom call, and they were all on it, and it brought tears to my eyes that I'm responsible for these people's livelihood. It's adulting in a major way, that I wasn't, that just was in front of my face. But I think we're at 10 or 11 people now.
Wow.
And they all have pages on the site. They're all models on the site. If you call into customer service or write into customer service, you are talking to somebody who is a model, who has the same problems you do, and that you don't have to be afraid to talk to, and who's going to talk to you from a standpoint of knowing, and not from a standpoint of, I'm a random call center person who's talking down to a sex worker.
Yes, that. My gosh, I feel triggered with that.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's our biggest thing. Look, I built this site. Our biggest asset is my amazing customer service team. They are incredibly passionate, smart, talented people who are models on the site, and they've come to us to want to work, because they're so passionate about the industry and about what hopefully we're contributing to it.
Yeah, that's so important, because unfortunately, there's too many companies that don't have this full understanding of what it's like to be in this industry, what it's like to face stigma from the general population, and really resonate with other people in terms of like, I'm struggling with something, I can't talk to anyone about it. So it's really comforting to know that that is a priority for your company, Just for Fans. Amazing.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
like just like
mandatory.
applauding.
It's not just a priority. It's mandatory. We
Thank
were
you.
hiring somebody for legal and compliance, and I met somebody who has a lot of that experience, and they would be perfect, but they're not in the industry and they're not a model. And I'm like, that's the deal breaker. We will find, and we did find somebody in the industry with the same skills, but like the whole point is that we are 100% staffed by sex workers. Like that is the
Amazing.
point.
I love that. And I love how you're really stressing the mandatory part. Like it really should, like you should be setting the standard for other adult industry companies to be like, this should be a thing, and this needs to be a requirement, in certain scenarios, talking about, you're talking about, certain sites, they are creating this for straight heterosexual creators. And you're talking about, the gay community, we have different needs and we are a little bit different. I would love to hear more from that perspective as well.
Yeah, so I mean, the industry is really separate, right? I mean,
It
especially in
is.
this especially the studio side, and uh, I built Just for Fans for everybody, and maybe this is a maybe I shouldn't. I'll get yelled at for saying something like this later, but it's controversial.
I can
But
edit this out if needed.
well, you don't have to, because I'm speaking my truth,
Mhm.
which is we were the second fan site to launch. Only fans launched. We launched a
Yes.
year and a half after. I believe that we should be the number two fan site in the world for every population. We are on the gay side. We are definitely not on the straight side, and that is because of homophobia of the industry. That is because
Yes.
when I launched the site and I wrote a note on xbiz.net, which is an industry discussion board for those who don't know, and I wrote a note introducing us, saying it was a site for everybody. The fact that you went to the homepage and you saw a penis made everybody on that site say it's a gay site, and how dare you make me look at a penis when I wanted to see a girl, and why did you waste our time with this? You should have said it was a gay. I'm like, it's not a gay site. There was a penis on the homepage. Do you need a hug? Are you going to be okay?
Right?
Like you saw a penis.
Wow.
Is your fragile masculinity like so rough that you can't handle seeing a penis? Like you go to Pornhub or everywhere else, like I see naked women on the homepage, and if I want to see guys, there's a tab that I click on. So
Yeah.
it was the opposite on Just for Fans, where the guys were first, and if you wanted to see women, you would click on their tab.
Right.
They were
I
equally
love that
represented.
though.
It's just who you saw first, and and
Totally.
and and it scared the hell out of everybody. But
Yes.
also, I didn't get support from the women the women models, because they didn't think their now, it wasn't. I mean, again, this is more about their audience. They
Hmm.
were afraid if their audience went to a website and they saw a penis, they wouldn't. They would click off of it. But again, so it's
Oh my
like
gosh.
this fragile masculinity. So are
Yes.
we number two in the straight side? No, definitely not.
Hmm.
Do I want to be? Yes. And now before you see any content, you have to select what you want to see, and that was my way to mitigate that.
Gotcha.
Which
That's,
killed me, that I had to implement.
I
I
was
had to
gonna say.
implement that. It was daggers to my heart that I had to make a business decision that really hurt, but I had to,
Yeah.
otherwise we would never gain traction with women at all. And not necessarily because of the women, but because of the fragile men who follow them.
Right. Oh my gosh. That's such a loaded topic. And I'm so glad you brought that up, though, because yeah, we need to talk about homophobia and transphobia in our industry, especially on the studio side. I see it happening so much. Even when I'm at the AVNs, like, we have a whole separate thing, the AVNs. And then, I know that Crystal Penn started the T Awards for trans folks, because we need space for that, because they weren't being given that space at quote unquote mainstream awards and adult industry events, and it's not a safe place for them. So it's so disheartening to hear that, and then like for you to have to make that change on the website to be like, what do you want to see, is like so heartbreaking to hear that.
Yeah. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Mhm. But you
I
got to
don't
do
remember
some
what the rest
things
of your
for
question was.
business. Oh yeah, I don't even remember what
Yeah.
that was either because I was just so
Yeah.
taken from that
Sorry.
question.
Yeah.
No, that's
Sorry.
okay.
Yeah. So, no, but so I guess we're talking about just the origin. So yeah. So it was meant to be a site for everybody. It's definitely because of this much more gay heavy than straight heavy. But the intention was always to try to appeal to both groups, but but again, yeah, they're very different, and obviously because I come from the world of the gay porn, I understand the gay side better.
Mhm.
And maybe I don't understand this. Well, I mean, clearly like this whole homepage thing, like I didn't understand that this was going to be so offensive to straight male eyes. Cause it
Right.
just seems like a no brainer to me. But, so I, have probably a lot to learn about, how to appeal better to the straight side. We have a lot of women on the site now, more
Mhm.
fetish women,
Yes.
fetish women whose fetishes have been outlawed or banned, I should say,
Yeah.
on other fan platforms.
Right, which is great to hear too, because like if anyone's listening who's an OnlyFans creator, like their terms and services is it can be quite restrictive for certain fetishes and doesn't embrace certain fetishes, and even for myself, I'm like, here, download my Google Drive like for this specific content. But yeah, it's there's something for everyone. Everyone's into whatever they're into, and we are here to make that content for them. They're here to support us. It's great. Tell us more about Just for Fans, and because in a world, it's 2024, there are so many paid subscription platforms out there nowadays. I would love to hear in your own words, in terms like what are the best features about Just for Fans.
Oh God, we have so many. So yeah, so we have the core subscription model, which is I think what everybody has,
Hmm.
and we have live cams. We have a customs feature where you can create a menu of things that you would do in a custom video and the prices associated with that, and then a
Hmm.
user can select what they want in their custom video and how long they want it to be, and if they want you to say their name and all these things,
I love
and the
that.
configurator creates the price for it. You set all the prices for what everything is.
Right.
They pay up front. We hold the money in escrow, if you will, until
Hmm.
you create the video and then send it to them, and then we dispense the money to you,
The
disperse the money to
funds.
you. And
Nice.
so unlike, I've heard such horror stories where people are like, this guy wanted a custom and I made it and then he didn't pay me for it, or after I made it he never got back to me. Whatever, we have the money sitting
Yeah.
there, so you're never asked
Yeah.
to do anything unless the money is ready to be given to you,
That's great. Yeah.
and it
There's
makes that
definitely,
easier. So
which is awesome. Yeah. Cause like I love that thing. Cause honestly, there's so much back and forth when we're talking about customs, and I want you to make this video. I'm like, well, how long? And this is what the budget is. And what else do you
yeah,
want me to include in that? I want you to wear this dress. I want you to say this thing. Like it
right.
can just take up a lot of time
Yeah. So know
for
the
that as
money's
well.
there, and
Hmm.
one of the big differences between us and other sites is that so everything is tracked and analyzed with statistics, and
Hmm.
there's statistics that you as a model see in your world, and most models will attribute anywhere from 25 or even like 30 to 50% of their sales to our internal traffic sending people to your page, which
Hmm.
is different from other sites that rely on you sending people in from Twitter. Otherwise, no
Right.
one's going to find you. Um,
Yeah.
and so we do a ton of work on the site to use AI recommendation engines. Where if you subscribe to this model, then here are other models that we think you might like.
Mm.
And we're constantly pushing models that you may have not seen before in front of you, because of all of our AI work, and that's been going on for years, way before AI was
A
a
thing.
buzzword like it is right now. Yeah,
That's awesome. I love that because, yeah, as a person, that has started out from scratch and really trying to build up your clientele. But honestly, that is like one of the hardest parts is, building up the clientele, getting them to retain and stay with you and stay loyal and not disappear for too long, at least.
Yeah, so if you don't have a big social media following and you're just starting, like you will get more sales from our site than from the sites that rely only on the traffic you're bringing in, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. Yeah, I love to hear that, which is so great. And you don't hear that from other platforms too, which is awesome. You were also talking about earlier about the anti-piracy technology that is already embedded in your platform. Did you want to quickly go over that as well? Was there more to add to that? I'm not sure if there was.
Well, it's a feature. If you're an exclusive model to us, meaning you don't have any other fan platforms, you get a higher percentage payout, and you get access to this watermarking feature. Slash, if you have a bad piracy problem and you write us, we turn it on for you because it helps everybody.
Totally.
And so what this does, as I think I mentioned, it embeds digital information into the video that can't be removed. So you could splice up the movie, you could re-render the movie into a lower format, you could take a screenshot of the whatever. If you're not going to get rid of this magic that's part of the file, and when you find that file online illegally, you can run it through the system, and the system will tell us who the user was that downloaded it, and then we can help you. And obviously, we'll ban him, but we can also help you sue him if you want to.
Wow, that's so awesome! Like you really are on our side. I just love to hear that.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's so that's the thing. Like, I'm not sure if you're aware of Finder. So we have an application called Finder, and I bring this up just because we're trying to solve all of the problems, right? Not just be an e-commerce engine. And so this watermarking thing is one of the problems we're trying to solve is piracy. Another problem that we keep having, that I kept hearing from people is, well, I don't even know who's in my area right now, or where I'm going to go to Paris. I don't even know who's in Paris to film with, and I live in Arkansas and there's no one here. Anyway, so most of my good ideas happen at the gym because I talk to my trainer about stuff, and I'm like, if only there were a grinder or what are the straight side, whatever you guys have,
Tinder,
that's Grindr.
Tinder, Hinge.
If only there was a Tinder or a grinder that was specifically for models. And then I was like, well, I'm going to write one. And so there's an app. We have an app called Finder, Findr, and it used to be just a Just for Fans thing, but then we expanded it to its own website. So you don't need to be on Just for Fans to use it. You need to get verified, so cool. but you can get verified by having OnlyFans or a Fansly, whatever the other sites are that you're on. We will verify you onto Finder, and then it works like these geographical dating apps where you can see verified models who are near you. You can and what they're interested in, what kind of stuff they want to produce. If you're traveling, you could set travel dates to say, I'm going to go to Paris on these dates. And then when somebody searches Paris, it comes up, you will come up in that list of being like, and this person will be here at this time. And here's what they want. So it's, so again, we're
downloading this now. I'm like, do.
Yeah. So the website it's finder.plus. Because .com was taken. So FINDR.PLUS, finder.plus. And you can create a web app on your phone or just go to the website. And yeah, so many people can now schedule collabs and stuff and figure out who's here this weekend.
That's so freaking cool. I'm just like, I can't wait to sign up for that. That's amazing.
We're trying to solve all the problems,
I love that. And I'm sure you hear so many things from the models and feedback and stuff too. It just really just sounds like you're taking a lot of time to really trying to implement those changes and swiftly too, and try to solve those problems. So huge, amazing, so good.
We're all about being good members of the community. So we have a charitable giving arm. And we're the only porn platform that has this, I believe.
Yes.
So we're in the system. You can choose between the charities that we work with and give a percentage of your sales to them directly.
Wow.
Our models have raised, and this includes trans charities, several sex worker charities, several lobbying charities, free speech club, like free
Yes.
speech coalition. Sorry.
Coalition. Yep.
Yeah. So all of the people working to help our community, and our models have raised over $200,000 for these charities.
Wow.
I'm just looking at, and you can see this. It's all transparent. There's a link on the site to see it. Trans Lifeline. We have raised almost $48,000 for just them.
That's so amazing. I love to hear about any
Yeah.
kind of social enterprise or any kind of giving back to the community. Cause like you said it, like I've spoken about this before in past episodes. I'm like, why are these huge companies making tons of money and none of it is actually going back to help the community that they are built upon?
And we're 7 years old. I launched this our second year. So I launched this 6 years ago. And I remember announcing it at one of our adult conferences. And I announced it and I got applause for it. But like, look, the point is not for you to applaud me. We all should be doing this. And if anybody wants my help implementing this on their platforms, this doesn't need to be a business advantage for my site. We all need to do this. And no one has ever contacted me.
Oh my gosh, that is so incredibly frustrating to hear that. And it just sounds so like selfish to me.
Well, I reached out, back in the day, I reached out to some of the other bigger platforms that were bigger than us. And I said, look, we have this anti-piracy software. I'm identifying who pirates are. I am happy to share that information with you because if they're pirating off of my site, they're pirating off of your site. Let's come up with some joint database where we can each enter in what we know about the bad people.
Yeah.
And not one company replied to me.
Oh my gosh. You'd think that they would want to just jump on to that.
I think everybody is so afraid of, it's so how high can my fence be to keep out my competition? But there's always ways to work with people. I would do this with OnlyFans tomorrow. Like I've offered. I think there are things that help all of us.
Absolutely. Yeah. And if I'm going to open up and generalize this conversation a bit too, this is like why I do the podcast, because it's like we were talking about, navigating blindly when we first started in our respective areas in the adult industry. And it's, I'm not here to kind of gatekeep any kind of knowledge, because I think, a lot of people need help and a lot of people need support, and that just strengthens the community further. So it pleases me so much to hear about that, because I did not know about that, and I'm hoping that this would inspire people and maybe motivate people to join Just for Fans as well. But incredible achievements and things that you have built, Dominic. It's been so incredible to hear your story here with me today. Quick question for you. I know you're working on a number of projects, but what are your plans for the future? It doesn't have to be just for Fans, but what's next for Dominic Ford?
So we're like weeks away, maybe a little bit more than weeks away, but from launching a new browsing experience on our site that's much more the Instagram, like the modern social media swipe up with vertical videos look. When I built Just for Fans, the Twitter and Facebook were what social media was, and they're not anymore. And I'm the first one to acknowledge that our user interface knows where it came from, but hasn't been updated so much. So we're working on a whole new user interface that I was going to launch as its own website. And then Twitter announced that they were explicitly allowing porn, because that was always the question, like, are we safe anywhere? And that kind of took the wind out of the sails to have it be its own site. But there is a new browsing experience coming to Just for Fans that we're in beta testing for right now, which looks pretty cool.
So excited. Darn, I'm sad that you can't use that name, but
well, it's part of me is like, just use it, and if they come after me, that's a big press story that will gain international attention. But it would bankrupt me. So
and that too, against TikTok. So
yeah, and they're somewhat litigious, I think.
Yeah, TikTok for sure. I've also heard that as well. So got to be careful there. But with that being said, I mean, this was a great conversation, Dominic. I hope, my audience had a great introduction to you. I thoroughly enjoyed our conversation today. But before we let you go, where can we all find you?
Okay, so on X, formerly Twitter, I'm at Dominic Ford, DOMINIC FORD, and then that's me personally. The company is Just for Fans site on Twitter and on Instagram, and then on Blue Sky we're Just for Fans.
Great. All of the things, all those links are going to be plugged in the link down below in the show notes if you haven't clicked there already. This has been so great. I'm happy with all the things that you have achieved and things that you're building in your platform, but also just for the community in general. So thank you so much for your hard work and dedication to creating a safe place for so many sex workers. And it's, truly applaudable.
Thank you for having me today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. And for everyone listening at home, it's new episodes every single Sunday, dropping at midnight Pacific Standard Time. If you want to get in touch with myself, feel free to reach out to me on X, formerly known as Twitter, under Stripped by Sia. If you want to get in touch with me on Instagram, it's Stripped by Sia Podcast, because as you all know, my other one got deleted. So that's a whole thing. And then if you want to become a patron, it's patreon.com/Stripped by Sia. And lastly, if you are looking to perhaps be a guest on the show, you can check me out at strippedbysia.com. There's a contact form there. You can kind of fill in the form and let me know and pitch me in terms of what your ideas might be, and we can work together and collaborate to make something amazing for the earwaves. So that's your homework for today. And if you do find this valuable, feel free to write a 5-star review on Apple and Spotify. That truly helps us in terms of folks finding the podcast and discoverability, and that would be greatly appreciated. But for now, we're gonna let Dominic go, and we'll catch you all in for a new episode next Sunday. Thanks, Dominic.
Thank you.
You're listening to Stripped by Sia, hosted, produced, and edited by Steph Sia. Music by Ted D. Graphic design by Maria Bellanderama, and photography by Ian